I've gotten a lot of requests to do a nighttime driving video on my Civic, and so I think a lot of you just want to see more of how the car drives, which I'll go over in the video. But there's really not a lot of videos out on this car right now, the EX Turbo with the manual transmission. So I'm really excited to show you guys how this car drives at night, and hopefully you'll learn something. Okay, so this is the 2017 Civic EX Turbo with the 6-speed manual, and this is the first year Honda's offered this engine with the manual transmission. 2016 was only available with the CVT, and I actually put off buying a 10th gen Civic quite a while to get the manual. In fact, I first looked at this car about a year ago, almost a year ago, and the only manual offering was the LX. So I decided I just wanted to hold off for a while, bought my Accord Coupe, hated that and regretted every minute of it, so then I got the EX Turbo 6-speed. Now this car is quite underrated from the factory. They rate this engine at 174 horsepower and 167 foot-pounds of torque, 5 more foot-pounds than the CVT version. But actually today Honda released a video of them dynoing the 10th gen Turbo 6-speed, and it actually makes 190 horsepower and 192 foot-pounds of torque, which is pretty strong for a 1.5 liter engine. And below 5,500 RPM, it actually makes more horsepower and torque than the 9th gen SI, which I had previously. So this is a pretty strong engine, and in the mid-range is where it's really powerful. Once you get much above $5,000 or so, it kind of starts to taper off like a lot of turbo engines do. But if you keep it below 5,000, 5,500, it's a really strong engine, and it just makes the car feel really energetic and really eager. And there is a little bit of turbo lag when you shift. You kind of have to wait a second or two for the turbo boost to kick in again, but it's really not bad at all. It's something you get used to pretty easily. One thing that really surprised me about this car is just how refined it is. I had the 2013 Accord Coupe before this car, and that was quite a bit quieter and more comfortable from a road manners perspective than my 14 SI. But this car even feels more refined than my Accord, which is saying something, because just a couple years ago that Accord was 30 grand, and this car is about 22. So that's saying quite a bit, actually. So I'm really impressed with the road manners of this car. It's just astonishing. You know, the level of maturity this thing expresses out on the road. It's wonderful. The ride is quiet. I have the winter tires on the car right now, so it's a little bit louder than it usually is, but it's still very quiet, and the ride quality is very smooth. But along with that, you don't really sacrifice the handling. This car feels pretty similar to my 9th gen SI. I do want to make a few upgrades to kind of dial in the handling a little bit, and I think that will give it just a bit of an edge over the SI. First of all, want to upgrade the tires for sure. Like I said, I have the winter tires on the car right now, which are great, but the stock Firestones that come on it just don't have much grip at all. I did some hard cornering with it before I put these tires on, and you can feel the tires starting to slip and just starting to lose grip in general, way before the chassis ever wants to let go. So that's one upgrade I really cannot wait to make, is the tires. I want to go for the Nokian Z line. The Nokians are not very popular here in the States, but in Europe they are really, wonderfully praised. So I definitely want to get a set of those on this car, and that should kind of dial in the handling quite a bit. But also, once the SI comes out next year, I hope we start to see some aftermarket stabilizer bars become available, because I definitely like to stiffen it up just a bit, and I think that would be a really nice touch to upgrade the stabilizer bars, at least in the rear for sure, possibly the front as well. Now, I've done a couple upgrades to the interior of this car. First of all, I did the leather-wrapped shift knob, and then more recently I did a leather-wrapped steering wheel. So it feels really good in your hands, and all the touch points are really great because you've got, you know, the armrest here that's really high up. The door armrest is at a nice level too. So you've got the leather and the steering wheel and the shift knob now, and just every little surface that you commonly touch when you're driving just has a really satisfying feel to it. And it's definitely a very ergonomically designed car, I guess is what I'd say, in the sense that everything is within easy reach, and all the major controls are just right there, right where you'd expect them, especially the shifter. I mean, you know, there's such a short transition from the shifter to the steering wheel and to the shifter to the steering wheel. It's wonderful. My friend has a Ford Fiesta ST, which is an awesome car, don't get me wrong, but one thing I can't stand about driving it is it feels like the shifter is like way down on the floor, and that's not at all the case in this car. It's right here, so that's awesome. Just makes it feel really sporty behind the wheel, and the throws on the shifter feel really crisp and precise. Some people have complained that the throws are kind of long, but it's not bad at all once you get used to it. It's really easy to change gears quickly, and like I said, it just has a very precise feel to it, which I really appreciate. The brakes and the throttle are all very responsive, and the clutch is pretty light. It doesn't have a whole lot of feel, but once you get used to it, you kind of know where the engagement point is, and you kind of get to the point where you can judge it better. So, you know, once you do 1,000 or 2,000 miles, you'll have it down pat, like nobody's business. So it's really great in that respect. One thing I did notice is that this car, just in general, when you're behind the wheel, just has a very European feel. I drove a rental Volkswagen Jetta while I had some work done on my Accord, and this engine sounds very similar to the 1.8 turbo that was in that car, especially at low RPMs. It just kind of has that sort of strum to it, and then the boost kicks in, and it just kind of holds you along, and it sounds and feels very similar to that 1.8 turbo in the Jetta. And also the responsiveness of the steering and the brakes and all that just feels like what you'd expect in a German car. It's really astonishing, actually, because, you know, typically Japanese compact cars are known for being kind of rough around the edges, not the most sophisticated cars, and that's not the case here at all. It just feels like a really well-engineered car. And even though this isn't an SI, it still feels quite sporty. Like I said, the handling is very eager, and with some better tires, it would be a lot nicer. The shifter is great. It's just a really, really well-executed car. And I cross-shopped this with the Mazda 3, and the engine in that car just didn't feel as eager as this car. It actually made more power, but it just didn't feel as strong and as, I guess, free revving. It just didn't have quite the same feel. And the suspension in that car felt fairly similar to this one, but the Civic is much more refined to drive. It's just a more comfortable car that's easier to live with than the Mazda 3. It doesn't have the cool interior design, but, you know, it's not bad in here at all. It's a huge step up from the 9th Gen Civic, that's for sure. I did install LED headlights in the car, so they are quite a bit brighter than the stock halogen bulbs. Some of you have been wondering how far the throw of the light is, and it's really no different than the halogen bulbs, mainly because these are projectors, so they have a distinct cutoff. And it seems like the light is brighter as it gets towards that cutoff, but it doesn't actually throw the light any farther, if that makes sense. But they are whiter and brighter. In fact, they drown out my fog light bulbs quite a bit. So that's one of the first things I noticed when I put them in, is like, wow, it's hard to see the fog light bulbs, unlike before where the halogens were just kind of dim. So that's a really nice upgrade that I made. Just how quiet the car is. I mean, we're doing 57 miles an hour on this pretty rough country road, and it's very quiet in here. keep in mind that I do have winter tires on the car right now, so with some nice, all seasons or summer tires, it would be even quieter. So if you have any questions about the Civic Turbo, feel free to post a comment below. I've been trying to answer as many questions about this car as I can. There's just not a whole lot of information out there right now because it's so new. But definitely ask me a question if you have anything in mind that you want to know about the car, or if there's any other videos you want to see on it, please let me know. I'll be more than happy to help you guys out if you're looking for this car, or if you just want to know more. I'll do whatever I can to put information out there about it.